Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline for the second consecutive week, former NFL and BYU quarterback John Beck. John, are you ready to begin your new calling in life as a weekly guest on BYU Sports Nation?
I'm ready for it, guys.
Okay, we're ready to go. First question. This is a doozy, man. When are you joining Twitter, John?
You know what? That's actually something I've been trying to figure out these last couple of weeks, knowing, all right, I'm stepping into this new world that I've never been in before, and I was always, as an athlete, I couldn't stand Twitter. I kind of wondered why players would have Twitter and allow fans an opportunity to fire back. I get it that you want your voice to be heard, but I just couldn't understand why somebody wouldn't want to keep up that little boundary that we have between the athletes and everybody on the outside. But now that I'm no longer a competing athlete, I kind of feel like maybe I need to step into that role. Maybe I need to have a Twitter account, but at the same time, it's hard after all these years of saying I'll never do it, and now looking like I might have to. So I don't know. We'll see. When I was living with Austin Collie, he was always on my case about that. He'd always be like, bro, why are you not on Twitter? Come on, bro, get with the times.
Yeah, I know that BYU Sports Nation would be excited if you jumped on Twitter. So we're very excited for you to start that this afternoon, and then we'll push that.
We need to work on a Twitter handle for John Beck, potentially. Put our collective heads together across BYU Sports Nation to come up with something awesome, if you decide to do it.
I do have an Instagram account, so I would probably just go with the same one as my Instagram account. Don't they, link up or something like that? I don't really know.
You can link them up, but you don't have to have the same username. What?
Gotcha.
I was going to ask you what your Instagram username account is, but I don't know that you want everyone staring at your photos.
I mean, here's the thing. I keep it private anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Maybe when I throw out my Twitter one, then everybody will know, because they'll probably be the exact same.
Gotcha. Okay, our Twitter question today is this. We were talking about how East Carolina is an interesting matchup, a good team, maybe an overlooked team to some BYU fans. So our Twitter question today is this. What level of concern do you have for the East Carolina game? What do you think, John?
I don't think concern would be a word that I would, put with it. I think that with where our team's at, I think more offensively on the offensive side of the ball. Because we have a young quarterback, I don't really think it needs to be so much about what the other team does, but just a constant focus on what we do and what we do well. It's what I really liked about this UConn game last week. I felt like they came up with a plan that I could see Tanner feel comfortable with, and they had a lot of success running it. And I think that moving forward, I think that needs to be the emphasis. Just what can we continually do well, and then can the defense stop it? And let's not concern ourselves with them. And maybe from a defensive standpoint, maybe East Carolina does some things offensively that could be a concern. I know that I saw some things that Kelly Poppinga had said when they have a pretty dynamic player on offense. It might be one of the best players that they've faced this year. So maybe from that standpoint, they need to be concerned with, okay, can we stop them offensively? But I think from our offensive standpoint, let's just continually focus on improving daily what we do well, and then can they stop what we do well?
John Beck with us on BYU Sports Nation discussing East Carolina at BYU on Saturday. And what better way to learn about your team than watching them play an actual game? The most recent game BYU had a 30-13 win over UConn. What did you take away from that game? Good fourth quarter, but kind of a weird first three quarters, John.
Yeah, well, I really liked what we did offensively. You could tell there was an emphasis on getting Tanner outside the pocket, almost to a point where, okay, we've got him outside the pocket enough, and you can tell that we've had some things that he likes. We can kind of move on to some other aspects as well. I felt that just by the way I saw Tanner's feet and eyes moving, he knew what he wanted to do on almost all of those plays. You can kind of tell in a quarterback if he's confident or not in what he's seeing, and if he's not confident, just by the way his feet and head moves. And I felt like UConn was making sure that they weren't going to give up anything mid-range. They made an emphasis of that, and something I really liked that Tanner was doing is Tanner wasn't just banging out the quick, short throws that he knew he could get, especially the ones on the run. He knew he had a short little 5 to 6 yard gain out in the flats, but he was constantly taking his time to see if something could develop downfield, then coming back to that first guy. Sometimes a quarterback will come out of the pocket, he knows he's got a 5 to 6 yard gain, and he just bangs it right away. But you could tell that Tanner had played a game out on the edge before, because the way that he was using his eyes, the way that he was coming back to his it could have been his primary progression. A lot of the times we called that 1-2-1. You have your 1, you know it's there, or maybe it's covered. You go to 2, then you come back to 1. And you can do that if he's open or if he's not open. And one of the best in the NFL is Tony Romo. And so I saw a lot of the similarities there with what Tanner was doing, and I felt like to have a game where he threw the ball close to 50 times, completed 30-plus passes, I think that's great for his development.
Where have you seen him make the most progress from the first time he took a snap as a Division I athlete at Nebraska to now playing against UConn as he heads into East Carolina?
Well, it's funny because the TV announcers the last couple of games have sometimes said maybe BYU is getting him out on the edge because sometimes he's hanging in that pocket a little bit too much. And they took that as a negative, but I took that as a positive because most young quarterbacks want to bail the pocket early, and sometimes we saw Tanner do that a little bit in his first couple games. And what that stems from is a quarterback being confident in his ability to escape the pocket and make a play outside the pocket. So it's a very positive thing. A lot of quarterback coaches like the fact that a young quarterback gets outside of the pocket and makes a play because it shows their confidence in their legs and their ability to make a play on the run. And the fact that he was staying in the pocket sometimes a little too long, I actually like that because here's a kid that's been out of the pocket for a few years. So the only way to get more used to it is to have times where you stay in a little too long, and then you go back and you say, okay, you know what, I stayed in there a little bit too long. But at least it gives the opportunity to find out how much can I stay in this pocket. So I like it. I think that the times that we saw Tanner bail a little too early, those are starting to go away. And now the times that, yes, he did sometimes stay in a little too long, I think now I can sense that he's getting a little bit better feel for it. And what he'll then develop is he'll have certain plays that are check down throws, backs out into the flat, and it's a feeling. So he's no longer having to rely on his progression to get him to the people in the flat or to get him to the check down. It becomes a sense around him, almost a sixth sense. The pocket's collapsing. I don't have time to continue through my progression, and now I go right to number 3, and I get the ball out quick. And, that's one of the traits. Even when I was in the NFL, guys used to talk about Ty Detmer. I was doing a thing with the Saints one time, and Sean Payton talked about one of the things that made Ty Detmer so good that they actually called it, the Detmering it, was that he had a feel for, I can't sit here and hang on and go through my progression, boom, and I pop it out into the flat. And I sense that's coming now for Tanner. And, it'll take more time, and there'll still be times that he'll hang in the pocket too long, and there'll still be times it gets out too soon, but I can see the progression starting.
It's amazing the influence that Ty Detmer has had in the NFL. I know Michael Vick used him they had him as a third-string quarterback and just as a coach, and now you're telling that story. That's amazing. Now, digression a little bit here, John. We threw out, maybe you're going to jump on Twitter. So I threw out a tweet at the beginning of this interview saying, what's the handle? We've had some good options here. I want to see what you think of these. Finds his guy, could be one. Not Jason is another one. Red Menace 12. Answered prayer, go long. Quarterback.
Ooh.
I like that one. What do you think of that one?
Quarterback, somebody at BYU back when I was there made a little poster that said quarterback. And that's actually, I had a little marketing thing called quarterback back when I was in the NFL. So that's been around. Maybe I will go to that.
Okay. At Joe Beck 12 is available until somebody grabs it here in a second. At Harleen is still open. Yeah, finds his guy. I think Vic Soto just weighed in. He said John's new Twitter handle should be Lepra John, a.k.a. the throwing redhead, and he tweeted the photo of you with the mullet with the Ravens.
Oh, my gosh. Vic is in trouble for that one. I'm calling him. I'd have to pick it up. So.
That picture is legit, man.
Oh.
First off, I just got to let everybody know, the whole mullet thing, I gave my it was my job to cut my son's hair. He was probably like 2, maybe. And my wife's like, go and cut his hair. Well, he had his hair pretty long. And I said, you know what? All my life when I was a kid, I wanted a mullet with those little lines on the side, and my mom would never let me. So I thought, you know what? I am going to give a mullet to I cut his hair. I brought him out into the front room, and my wife said, absolutely not. You trim the rest of it off right now. And I was like, I can't do it. I got to leave it on. So then I thought, you know what? If I'm giving him a mullet, why can't I have a mullet too? I'm doing this. So then I had a mullet, and it kind of became like a funny thing between my wife and I, between my son having one, me having one. But then Chris Cooley at the Redskins was like, yo, that looks sweet. You need to let it go the rest of the season, and let's see how long it can get in the back. So that's how it became like this. Don't cut it till the season's over. Players on my team. My son had a mullet. I had a mullet. That's how it went. And then it just kind of kept going. It was fun, but trust me, I'm not somebody that's like, I got to go have a sweet mullet now for the rest of my life.
Everybody needs to work some of that crazy hairstyle out of their system, right?
I mean, listen, I loved Lenny Dykstra's mullet hanging out of the back of his batting helmet when he made the Phillies, and I wanted it so bad, so I decided to do it. But, I could have picked probably a little bit better time than walking around during pregame warm-ups with having that thing flowing, so.
BYU's got a good group of receivers, John. It seemed like Tanner Mangum found them obviously better than the Michigan game, but used them and more down the field than, say, the UCLA game. And game plans, dictate a little bit of how you manage that. But how should Tanner Mangum take advantage of these receivers, in your opinion?
Well, just looking back on when I had Coach Anai's philosophy is definitely a move the chains type philosophy. We were really big on, third down, setting ourselves up for a manageable third down and completing that third down pass. As I was able to grow in the offense, I found ways to get more chunk plays, to do some things that I'm sure Tanner will get to as he progresses as a quarterback. So I think from Coach Anai's standpoint, he wants to manage the short to intermediate passing game. That's where he wants to be really, really good. He wants his quarterback and offense to function well there because he understands the importance of staying on the field and moving the chains. Now, to have the type of receivers, those big body guys like we have, that's something that I can't say that he's had, he's had that in his past. He's had all that experience before. So to utilize them adds another dimension. And I'm sure that they're probably learning more and more what they have with a player like Nick Kurtz. Mitch has been there. They know what they have in Mitch. They're probably finding more. But I'll tell you this, though. I know that everybody wants to see, get the ball downfield to these guys, or why aren't we running fade routes with these guys? You can only do so much. If the defense isn't giving you opportunities for that, you just can't do it. You can't force those plays. It doesn't make sense. I remember as a young player, I loved trying to find opportunities to get the ball downfield. I came from a high school where we were a major down-the-field team, and I had to learn how to not be so much of a chuck it down the field because I just want downfield plays to happen. And, it works sometimes for us, but when you look at completion percentages, when you look at third down conversion rates, teams that do that force things downfield trying to make a play, they don't stay on the football field as much. So I think that if a team's not giving them the opportunities, there's only so much they can do. Connecticut was going to give everything underneath. That's the way they were going to play the game. UCLA wanted to force BYU and Tanner. Can Tanner move the ball down the field consistently, move the chains consistently? Because they had seen before that against Boise, they didn't move the chains as well in the beginning of the game, except they relied on a couple 30-19 bombs. So I think the way to utilize the receivers still is philosophically. Do they give you an opportunity, but then when they do give it to you, to utilize their height, their size. That ball that Mitch Matthews caught in the end zone the other day, that ball was thrown because it was Mitch. But it worked, and there will be opportunities to do that. There will be opportunities to say, one-on-one with the corner, that's Mitch, let's throw it.
John, great to have you on the show, and we're excited to have you as part of our weekly BYU Sports Nation crew, man. We appreciate the time.